Welcome back. You know, over 5 decades ago, Africa and Europe stood as water and paraffin. Very few people believed that one day Africa and Europe would sing the same song without coercion or fear. Some only had a dream of it. Presently, the dream is becoming a reality. More and more, Africa and Europe are interconnected, bound together by history, culture, geography, a common future. Call it 2 unions, 1 vision. Since 2007, heads of state or government from Africa and the EU have come together and been in the forefront of taking the Africa-EU relationship to a new strategic level. We want to talk about that. But before we move on to the interview, let's take a look at this particular clip. Wow, very powerful clip there, very creative indeed. Welcome, Your Excellency, Lodewijk Briet, European Union Ambassador to Kenya. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Johnson.
Many thanks. Of course, last year we had you and we spoke about so many things in relation to, the European Union and Africa. But bigger things, better things happening from 2014.
Yes, I think that's right. I hope so. That clip, I think, encapsulates really our vision as we enter this new year. And we really hope that we will build further on our deep and long-standing relations, on our partnership. And I think that is really borne out by this. It's important. There are 3 Ps: people, prosperity, peace, that are underlying the idea of this summit. I'm about to send out the invitation from President Van Rompuy and President Barroso to President Kenyatta, and we really hope he will be attending the summit in early April.
Where is that summit address about?
It's the summit is in Brussels,
yes,
April the 2nd and the 3rd, and it will be essentially an attempt to further consolidate our partnership with Africa.
You said there's 2 unions, 1 vision.
Yes.
What is the vision?
The vision is that we are in this world together, in an increasingly interconnected world, and a world where you cannot have development without peace, or peace without development. And that underscores our deep commitment to making sure that if we can contribute to helping stabilize situations, also here in Kenya's neighborhood, that we are very much keen to do that.
All right. Just talking about development, you're also set to launch your 6-year development plan. Perhaps
right.
you could talk to us about that.
Yes, this is a plan that is a funding commitment on the side of the European Union in the order of 50 billion shillings over the next 6 years. And it is actually something that we are very happy to be able to announce, because it is a commitment that, in spite of the financial crisis in Europe and the hard times being faced by EU citizens, demonstrates an ongoing commitment towards Africa, and in this case towards Kenya in particular.
The Kenyan government, particularly the backing government, they were struggling as much as possible to do development raising local money, our taxes.
Yes.
Why would we want to divide from that so that we entrench ourselves to more IMF funding, World Bank funding, instead of wananchi or the
local resources
raising their own taxes and spending that to fix our budget?
Listen, I have no problem with that proposition whatsoever. Development aid is something that only contributes in a marginal way to a broader development picture. Kenya, like many other African countries, are in a developmental state. And what we try to do is build specifically on Kenya's own agenda, its own priorities, as laid out in Vision 2030 and the various implementation plans, so as to underpin that, but not come in with our own priorities. And that, I think, is quite important. So we're very much playing this and discussing this with the various actors on the Kenyan government scene.
One of the P's you have mentioned in that clip is about peace. When you look at Africa now, it looks like we're going backwards. We have issues in Southern Sudan, we have issues in DRC Congo, Central African Republic, and some other fringe countries in West Africa. Now, this partnership doesn't seem to be helping. If anything, what happened to Kenya in 2007, 2008, it looks like we're going backwards.
Mutegi, I disagree with you.
Please.
I think that I should pay credit to the efforts that have been made by the Kenyan government, even just President Kenyatta, President Ruto in the last weeks, when it comes to grappling the situation in South Sudan. And we all know how much Kenya is doing to help stabilize the situation in the other parts of the neighborhood, starting with Somalia. We are very much partnering in that, and we are doing a lot, both in developmental terms, also simply in terms of humanitarian aid. So I think if you look at the various areas, I must pay also tribute to the chair of the African Union Commission, and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who I think is working to deepen the capability of the African Union to start tackling these various crises and dealing with the root causes. We cannot simply, and of course the drama in South Sudan is that we are on the one hand trying to promote the talks in Addis, while on the ground fighting continues. It is the old, are we into peacemaking, or is there no peace to make? Or do we have to resort to peacekeeping, which is a much harder proposition? So I think we must be realizing that today our partnership actually brings us together in an effort to tackle these various sources of instability in a pretty comprehensive way.
Just looking at the same issue in regards to maintaining peace, of course we still have to grapple with the issue that we have the ICC cases still going on, and to a great extent we've been talking about Kenya deciding to move east and not west. In fact, you look at perhaps even in the last 3 years, we've seen no major Europe-related companies investing in Kenya. We've seen Samsung coming in, but the European companies are slowly taking a slower pace in terms of establishing themselves in Kenya. Is that a true picture of what's happening?
I don't share that assessment, actually, and I think that, you know, while we welcome the involvement and competition of other players like China and India, and they're very important players, and together they account for a larger part of imports into Kenya than the European Union does. Not at all in terms of exports from Kenya, by the way, but we are far larger and a far more important importer of Kenyan goods than either China or India. But, you know, we have seen in the last year a whole number of companies setting up coordination centers, setting up their local offices here. Kenya, Nairobi, continues to be an important hub, and that's true also for Western industry. So I do not share the picture that we would see Western disinvestment.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to add, I think what is important is that the deep relations that have existed for a long time are more properly recognized in the tonality of our discourse.
Mm. Looking at just you know, even the trade relations that we have, specifically the horticulture sector, we have suffered slightly, especially after they were subjected, you know, Kenya's fresh produce were subjected to tougher compliance rules by the European market. How is that being handled?
Listen, sanitary and phytosanitary standards are evolving. They change as science changes, as we start discovering that there are certain compounds that may actually be more harmful than we originally thought. We try to make sure that that knowledge and that those standards, as they evolve, are shared immediately with whoever produces agricultural goods that might be destined for consumption inside the European Union, whether it's produced in Europe or South Africa or Kenya, wherever. I think we've had problems, and we have had a team here from our